welcome back to the VMO YouTube channel. This is Jansen from VMO. Today I'm going to be taking a look at the all-new Penn Tidal XT surf casting fixed spool reels. Now they actually make these in two sizes, a 7000 and an 8000. Now I believe it's going to be the 8000 that's of the most interest to most shore anglers, so I'm going to be putting it through its paces and having a damn good look at it. Obviously I haven't even taken it out of the box yet. I know nothing about this reel. Let's get into it. So obviously the reel's still in the box. Let's get it out and see what it's all about. Now, I do like these boxes, the fact that the lid just lifts off like this. A lot of the Penn boxes can be a bit of a fiddle to take out. I'll tell you the first thing I have noticed, spare spools required. This package comes with one spare spool. Additional spare spools can be ordered separately at your local dealer. And they've actually put an item code on the box so you can see exactly what you need to get. Nice little touch that. Right, let's see what else we've got in here. So, obviously the reel. Little white box here with, surprise, surprise, a spare spool. Nicely bubble wrapped. Looks to me very much like the, well, yeah, it's an identical spool to the actual spool that comes on the reel. So you've got two spools the same size, that's good. Let's pop that to one side a second. And we've also got these spacers, and I mean usually you only see these with some of the more expensive reels. What you do with these, you just clip them onto the spool, and it basically means you don't have to put a load of line on there. You know, if you're going to only be using the top couple of 100 meters of line at the most, you don't want to be overly filling the reel and the line at the bottom's not going to get used. Add a spacer on them, that solves the problem, so that's a nice touch as well. We've actually got a couple of those in there, I believe. There we go. Now the actual reel itself, the exciting bit, nicely wrapped up there, bit of bubble wrap. Before we get onto that though, let's just pop that to one side. Get a few little nice stickers to pop on your seat box or your bucket or whatever you want to do. There's obviously the exploded parts diagram and an instruction manual, and you don't see that very often nowadays on a reel, so that's something to have a look at. A bit of bedtime reading. And then we've got a couple of nylon spacers for the spool. Now these, if you lay your line onto your spool, you wind your line onto the spool, if the line level is not absolutely perfect, then these can elevate or drop the spool down ever so slightly. You know those times when you're loading up your fixed spool reel and all the line is bunched up at the front, at the top of the spool, or at the bottom? That's what they're for. Add one of those in, it adjusts the height of the spool, solves the problem. Right, and the reel itself, here we go. Always exciting, isn't it, getting into a nice shiny new bit of kit. Take the bubble wrap off. They do wrap them up well, that's for sure. And there she is. Now I've got to say, it does look very much like a Shimano Power Aero, which is a much more expensive reel. It's twice the price. You know, these retail at around £200, and wow, I mean, that just feels absolute class. It's lightweight, it's solid. I mean, it certainly feels solid. Obviously, I've only just picked it up. There's no play in that at all. You know, some reels, you get a bit of play in the handle when it's fully tightened up. In fact, if I just tighten that up a little bit more, yeah, no play at all there. So that tells me this reel's been made with very fine tolerances in mind. There's no wobble, there's no, you know, it's a well-made, well-engineered piece of kit. So turning the handle for the first time, lovely, absolutely gorgeous, silky smooth. Now what's noticeable straight away is just how nice and slow that oscillation is. So what does that actually mean in real terms? Well, if you've got a slow oscillating reel, as you're winding the line on, it'll profile the line onto the spool of the reel really neatly, side by side in fact. If you've got a cheap reel, the spool will go up and down really quick, the line lay's not very good, you're not going to be able to cast as far as you possibly could with a reel with a slower oscillation. So yeah, we've got a nice slow oscillation there, that's for sure. I believe it's about 50 wraps of line per oscillation, and that is really going to get that line side by side, nice and neat, long casts. So let's have a look at everything else. There's the clutch, lovely sound on the clutch. That does sound good, nice and crisp. Now I'm just wondering, there we go, that's pretty much locked down solid now. I'm just gonna, there we go. So it doesn't take much at all to lock the clutch down on this reel. On a lot of fixed spool reels now, you've got what they call a quick drag, where it literally just takes a couple of turns to either loosen or tighten the drag, and that does appear to be the case with this new Tidal. So if I just loosen that off, there we go, straight away we've got less drag pressure. Tighten it up, and that's locked down nicely, so that's great. So the bail arm, on some fixed spool reels you can cast out, the bail arm will flick back over. Obviously if that happens, it's going to cause a crack off, or you know, you're going to hurt yourself, put a lot of pressure on yourself in one hit when you're casting. So you want a bail arm that is going to stay open. I mean, that clicks over nice and solid. Yeah, really can't knock that. That's absolutely lovely. So nice chunky bail arm as well. You don't want some thin piece of metal going around there. You want something that's solid. We've got a roller bearing inside here, obviously to aid the line flow onto the reel and prevent line twist as well. Line twist is a big enemy of fixed spool reels. If your line gets twisted up, it's going to cause all kinds of problems. So the spool itself, it's got a little line clip on the side. I know a lot of people don't like using line clips nowadays. There's so many different types of bands that you can actually put around the spool of the reel to hold the line in place. So, but yeah, nice little touch there on the side anyway. Anti-reverse lever at the back there, on, off, pretty much self-explanatory really. So at the moment you can tell the anti-reverse is on. The spool will only go, sorry, the rotor will only go in one direction. We'll flick it back the other way, and there you go. It's not very often that sea anglers backwind when they're playing a fish. You know, if you want to give line to a fish like a smooth hound or a taupe or something like that, you use the clutch. But coarse anglers, I think this is where it's basically come from. It's derived from coarse fishing, where anglers like to play a fish on the backwind. So there we go, that's locked down. Nice little handle. It's only a small handle, but it's a nice grippy material. You know, these nice soft rubbers that they use, it's difficult to slip off of those, even with a wet hand, I would imagine. So yeah, looks like a lovely bit of kit. Now something that I've also noticed that they've got on here, and again, this, I would imagine this comes from Shimano reels. They've obviously mirrored a Shimano. It does look very similar to the Shimano Power Aero. Is this little sticky piece on here. Now, can I just get that off a minute? And you're advised to remove these before filling them up with line. And if I can actually see where that's stuck on there, failing eyesight is not a good thing to have. Here we go. Right, we're getting into it. So peel that off. There we go. Beautiful, really nice, well machined reel. CNC clear technology. No, sorry, CNC gear technology. That's those eyes again. Right, well, I'm not going to cast it when it's looking like that. I've got to put some line on it. Let's go and do that now. So I've got a nice brand new spool here of Asso Ultra Cast, 20-pound breaking strain, 0.36mm diameter. Now for general all-round fishing, 0.36 on a fixed spool is absolutely lovely. This is lovely smooth stuff. Obviously it's very bright in colour. I do like bright colour lines for fishing in the dark. Let's get it on there. So I've got the butt section of the rod I'm going to be using today. This is the Any Fish Anywhere GBFS Pro Mark II. Now, the obvious thing to mention here is I wouldn't usually load a reel up on the beach, but for the purpose of this video, here we go. So all I'm going to do is make a loop in this line and just tie a grinner knot as if I was tying a hook or a swivel. So 5 turns, another 4 turns inside, and I've just formed, like I say, exactly the same kind of loop as I would for tying a hook. Open the bail arm on the reel, slip the loop over the spool, and then just pull it down like that. So I've trimmed that knot down now. All I need to do is close the bail arm and we're ready to go. Now, don't worry too much about that knot that you use to secure the line onto the spool. The chances of you getting down to that knot at any point other than when you go to change the line again are pretty slim. So here we go, let's get into it, load this reel up. So that's the reel loaded up, absolutely silky smooth, beautiful, beautiful gearing on this reel. You can feel how tight and there's no wobble, you know, on a fixed spool reel, if it wobbles, you're gonna lose some of that torque. And this is absolutely perfect. You can see that line on there, the way it's profiled onto the spool. I haven't had to use any of the spacers underneath the spool to lay it on there any neater. That is out of the box and that is perfect. So that's the line on the reel, spooled up, ready to go. I say it's ready to go. The next thing we need to do is tie on a shock leader. Always, always, always use a shock leader. It's absolutely imperative. Now, when it comes to shock leaders on a fixed spool reel, you really do want to be using a tapered leader. It creates a much smaller knot. There's less chance of the line leaving the spool, catching the knot and causing a crack off. So, ASSO tapered shock leader, braking strain 18 to 70 pound or 0.38 to 0.75. Let's get it on there. Now, what I like to do with my tapered shock leaders is just remove the first sort of, I don't know, 6 foot or so, just to get onto the slightly heavier stuff. There we go. Don't use your teeth, it's not good. Right, so I'm going to go for a nice spider hitch knot here, really easy to tie. And to start with, I'm just going to make a loop in the main line. So this ASSO Ultra, fantastic smooth line. And if you're casting with a fixed spool reel, you do want a smooth line. You want a line that's going to leave the spool of the reel and be, you know, next to no friction. You want it to be super smooth. So let's just put the leader down there for a second. Spider hitch knot. I just pulled off a loop of line there. I don't know if you can see this. And I'm just going to wrap it around my thumb 3 times like that. And then going to take the loop itself and push it back through those loops that I've made over my thumb. Like that. Pull it through. Now what I like to do is open out the knot like this. So everything is equal. And as I pull it down, a little bit of saliva. There we go. And you want a tiny, tiny little knot on that loop, like that. That's perfect. So there's the loop that we're going to connect the shock leader to. Let's do it. So I've got my spool of shock leader, and I'm going to go through the loop, like that. I'm then going to wrap it around the loop, like that, 6 times. I'm going to go back through that loop there. Now, the person who showed me this knot, they actually explained something to me which was really interesting. With most knots, you'd snug them down, you take your time, you pull them slowly. With this one, you don't. As long as you wet it down, plenty of saliva, just give it one short, sharp tug. There we go, absolutely solid. Okay, so in effect, you've got 2 knots there, but we're going to trim them down, and they're both really small. Your line's not going to catch on them when you cast. Let's cut those back now, so I can get down nice and tight on these, like that. Pick up the tag ends, stick them in your pocket. We don't want to leave any trace on the beach whatsoever. And remember, this isn't really a job for the beach. This is something that, in an ideal world, you're going to be doing at home. So let's trim that one down as well. Perfect. Tag ends number 2 in my pocket, out of harm's way. Pop the scissors back on there. So there we go, that's the leader tied on. Just got to wind it onto the reel now. Tighten the clutch back up. And obviously the beauty of a tapered shock leader is, there it goes, it's on there now, you don't need to guess how much you're putting on. It's a pre-cut length, and there we go, it's come to the end of this pre-cut length. I'm stepping on the shock leader itself now, that's not going to do it any good. Almost ready to go. Next step, to tie a quick link onto the end of the shock leader. So what I've got here is a Trident Thermalink. These have only been around for probably the last year or 18 months, something like that. Could be wrong, maybe a little bit longer, but they are incredible. Really, really nice little clip for connecting your lead onto your rig, whatever you want to put on there basically. Let's just hold that lead in there for a second. So nice simple grinner knot to hold the Thermalink onto the end of the shock leader. 2, 3, 4. It's nice and simple if you've got good eyesight, honestly. Must get the Specsavers. I digress. Right, okay, so knot done. Let's pop the lead on the clip just to help us pull it up tight. Wet it down. Pull that tag end a bit. Excellent. Nice, strong connection knot there onto the Thermalink. Trim that down. Grab the tag ends. There we go, lead on the end. Right then, time to give this reel a go, see what it's all about in the field, as they say. I did slip up a little bit today, in actual fact. I didn't plan on getting here as late as I have, and the tide has gone out quite a long way, so I'm kind of out in the mud, but that's not going to be a problem. Just have a few casts and demonstrate this reel. So obviously with new line, I'm not going to go hitting it hard to start with. Just a little flick, just to get the line bedded down on the reel. And it's also going to give me an idea of what this gearing is like in practical terms. It really does feel so solid. This is kind of like the Penn spin fisher and that toughness that those reels have. But it's, I don't know, there's just something more to this. It's kind of got the looks of a Formula 1 reel, but it's got the gearing of something a lot more pokey. So just try a little bit more power now. Arms right up in the air, nice and high, pull down with left arm, bang. Lovely. Comfortable 100-yard cast. And the line lay on this reel, I can't get over how good it is. Considering that is straight out of the box. Look at that. Absolutely uniform. Beautiful. Right, let's get this one in. Try swinging the lead a little bit now, just to put a little bit more power in. And as I've said many times before, guys, just to reiterate the point, I'm not a tournament caster. I'm not a massive caster by any stretch, but I catch fish, and that's all I'm worried about. Right, get the legs. It's a little bit slippery underfoot, so just swing to the left, swing to the right. And I'd say that was 150 yards plus, quite comfortably. And what I'm going to do is actually really hammer this reel on the retrieve, like this. There's no sign of it, you know, there's not one little hiccup with this thing. Absolutely lovely. And when you've got line lay this good, that is what leads to those sort of effortless long casts. If you've got a multiplier reel, you've got to tune it up. It's got to be running absolutely perfect to get some consistent distance. Got to have the right oil in the bearings. The mags or the centrifugal blocks have got to be just so. Your line level has got to be topped right up. With a fixed spool reel, you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. As long as you've got plenty of line on there and it's not too thick, you've got the potential to cast a long way. So here we go again. My simple fishing cast. To the left, to the right. Absolutely spot on. I cannot fault this reel, I wish I could. I'd actually really question anybody nowadays who wants to go for a multiplier. You know, if you're new to fishing and you get yourself a fixed spool reel, it's highly practical to cast a long distance. So, to the left, to the right. Really nice reel. I am impressed, if you can't tell. And I think the important discussion here as well, you know, it's like I've just said, multipliers on the whole have been regarded as the tool of the accomplished angler for so long. And fixed spools, they've kind of got forgotten about. But all the while, the technology has come on in leaps and bounds. And I would happily use this for my fishing. I tell you what else though, I've really warmed up now. It might only be 6 degrees, but having a few chucks and you've got a few layers on like this, it certainly gets the blood flowing around your body. Right, last cast, left, right, to hit it, absolutely flies out there. Fantastic. Well, I've got to say, hats off to Penn. This, in my opinion, is an absolute winner. So that was a tackle talk on the all-new Penn Tidal XT 8000 surf casting reel. Check out the comments section for a direct link. I'll catch you again.